Donald Trump is jumping into bed again, this time with Vladimir Putin. He's about to sell out Ukraine as right-wing social media led by Carrie Lake and Jack Posobiec and Tucker Carlson celebrate an American president cutting a deal to deal directly with Putin against our democratic ally in Ukraine. The world is turned upside down, but we'll make sense of it all right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. I never thought in my lifetime I would ever have to do commentary about a U.S. president selling out American values and interests to our Russian adversaries. We're supposed to be trying to contain and undermine the superpower named Russia. We're not supposed to reward it for having breached the sovereignty of Ukraine, for having led to terrorism all around the country, to having undermined our own democratic values and election system through disinformation and misinformation campaign. But to people like Carrie Lake, who says, I wake up every day, it's like Christmas morning. We love the fact that Donald Trump is having direct phone calls with Putin. It's the art of the deal of peacemaking, says Jack Posobiec. And by the way, while I'm on Jack Posobiec, the guy that invented Pizzagate, the guy who argued to the American people in a QAnon conspiracy that Democrats were running, including Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, were running a child pedophile ring out of a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. I am not making this up. That guy, you think that guy should be in a mental hospital. You know where he is? He's standing next to Pete Hegseth, invited by the Pentagon to go along and do running social right-wing commentary about the accomplishments. He's like embedded with the Trump administration. He goes with Pete Hegseth to Pentagon meetings abroad. He goes with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and stands next to him while they're meeting with Ukraine as they're selling out Ukraine. Jack Posobiec, the Pizzagate guy, is in the government embedded with the Trump administration. So then you've got Tucker Carlson, right? Tucker Carlson is celebrating the fact that Donald Trump, it's not about making peace with Russia. It's about getting into bed with Russia and throwing Ukraine under the bus as a result. I mean, he's negotiating directly. Marco Rubio and Trump himself in phone calls with Putin are negotiating directly with the Russians before they even met with the Ukrainians or understand what Zelensky wants in this. And they've already cut the legs out from under Zelensky because they've said out loud, including the defense secretary, Hegseth, and Marco Rubio, that Ukraine will never be allowed into NATO, will never be in the NATO alliance, and that they'll have to give back, they'll have to give up all the territory that Russia took by force in the 2.5-year, almost 3-year war. That's the reward Russia got for being the aggressor and going after a democratic country. And now you've got the talking points. And you see how Donald Trump is using right-wing media. I'm going to play a couple of clips here in a minute. But you got the talking points that Tucker Carlson is using, and you think you're watching Russian TV. I mean, Tucker Carlson frequently calls Zelensky the dictator. And that Putin had every right to protect himself from the dictator in Ukraine. Listen, I know people in the region. I'm married to people from the region. I have a pretty good handle on what's going on the day-to-day life over there. All Zelensky and Ukraine wanted was for their cousins in Russia to leave them alone after the breakup of the Soviet Union, let them be an independent country that turns towards the West and democracy. That's what we're supposed to be supporting. We're not supposed to be supporting Putin. Oh, well, we understand his position because, there's a border and Zelensky's popular. So bomb Kiev? So bomb Ukraine out of existence? Go back to maps from 17 and 1800 and say, oh, these territories were ours. Should Mexico show up with Claudia Sheinbaum tomorrow with military troops and take back large swaths of America? Because on maps from the 17 and 1800s or before, it was all part of Mexico? Are we going to lose California and Texas? Well, definitely Texas. To a Mexican land grab? And why is it okay for an American president, I keep emphasizing the American part, who is supposed to be the leader of the free world, who's supposed to be holding our torch of democracy, to which all other countries are supposed to be attracted as a counterbalance against communist and fascist regimes? Why is it okay for an American president to cut a deal to throw our democratic ally Ukraine under the bus? Why is that okay? And why is it okay for them to amplify this message as if it were written by Russian television, couldn't have been written any better by Russian television, for people like Tucker Carlson to say, well, Putin had every right, Zelensky what? He was going to take over Russian territory? He just wanted the Donbass back. He just wanted Crimea back, the port, which was part of Ukraine before Putin's last land grab under the Obama administration. Left unchecked, Putin will continue to do it. I have friends in Poland who are crapping in their pants, understandably, because they're like, if the United States is not standing up for Ukraine, we have no hope when the tanks roll into Poland. And instead, the right-wingers like Kari Lake and Posobiec and Tucker Carlson and others who are celebrating, hooray! Hooray what? Where is your American values? The MAGA party running around with their red hats. By the way, they're very quiet lately. I'll tell you, I live in an area now that's the state is sort of MAGA, but it's purpley. And I live in a blue spot. But they're very quiet because they didn't vote for this. They left fascist regimes and dictators, right? When they read a new executive order that says all federal agencies are going to be put out of business and all have to answer to me, the almighty president, they freak out. Like, we didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for an economic tariff war that's going to spin the economy into an abyss. Did you know I have a secret weapon? I know the mascot of every D1 college basketball team by heart. And that usually proves to be a great way to break the ice. Oh, so you're a blue hen or a violet or a Tar Heel, right? A secret weapon is a great asset to have in your back pocket. It helps you get ahead in life. That's how Mack Weldon thinks about clothing, as a secret weapon. Timeless, classic style that's infused with performance fabrics and hidden details. Whether you're looking for light as air underwear, anti-odor tees, or sweaters with lightweight warmth, Mack Weldon has a full range of clothes that feel comfortable all day long and never go out of style. Like this time of year, I love and can't get enough of their warm knit collection. I think I have every piece. Their two-way puffer vest with a button-down shirt is my go-to most of the year. At a meeting, podcasting, or having dinner with my wife, the fit is superb and it's classic and fashion-forward at the same time. Mack Weldon's two-way puffer, for example, is luxurious to the touch, yet reversible and water-resistant on both sides. They're not flashy, just classic, always in style and made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Mack Weldon clothes are designed to fit your style and the demands of modern life. They're the go-to choice for guys who want to look great without even trying. Their secret weapon products are amazing, like breathable underwear that keeps you cool, dry, and comfy all day, or crazy comfortable but elevated sweatpants. Get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code LegalAF. That's MackWeldon.com, promo code LegalAF. And we certainly didn't vote for, a lot of these people in where I'm living now came from Cuba, which is under the sphere of influence of Russia, and they freak out when Donald Trump's cutting a deal with Putin. They don't see him as a tough guy, art of the deal, Jack Posobiec. They see him as an out-of-control, megalomaniacal guy who violated all of our principles to get into bed with the Russians. This is a country that we had a Red Scare during the 50s where we looked under every mattress looking for communists, looking for Russian sympathizers. Now we got a president who's a Russian sympathizer. And we've got these right-wingers who, if you collectively put their brains into a bird, it would fly backwards. I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, I don't mean to do ad hominem attacks, but does anybody want to sit at a bar with a beer with Kari Lake and find out what's going on in that weird stew of her brain right now? No. And again, I'm going to end this hot take the way I started it. What is Jack Posobiec, the guy who said Democrats are running a pedophile ring and sacrificing babies? I left that out. Eating and sacrificing babies as part of the Q-anon Pizzagate theme. How did he get rehabilitated? So now he is embedded with the Treasury Secretary and the Defense Secretary so that he can do all sorts of social media posts. When did we let the KKK and white supremacists into our government? Why? And why do we have a Russian sympathizer as president and vice president? We just had J.D. Vance go to Munich, of all places. Talk about a lack of historical context. He went to Munich, Germany, right? Every little school child in short pants knows what happened in Germany in World War I and World War II. He goes to, and the fact that we demilitarized them for a reason. He went to Germany in Munich with our Democratic allies in front of them and decided he was going to take off his belt and take them out to the woodshed and beat them because he doesn't like their brand of democracy. He thinks they all should be Trumpians in Germany. And then he met with the alt-right / neo-Nazi party in Germany and was celebrated. His speech was celebrated on Russian TV. They said it was a public caning of Democratic allies that was long in the making, and they celebrated it. You know that if you're being celebrated on Russian TV, then you've sacrificed the American values that you were asked to protect on the altar of your fill in the blank, power, hungry greed. Get your hands off my brand of democracy. You know, the best metaphor I can use is that they got a like a wrap you can put around cars to change the color, you know, instead of paint. You know, you see a lot of these cyber trucks and they're all wrapped. You take them to a wrapping. So our brand of the beating heart of our democracy and the values that you and I hold dear have been shrink wrapped by this black heart of MAGA. We got to bust it out. You got to bust that heart out because we are not making any new democracies in the world. We are not supporting appropriately our democratic allies around the world. And we're instead creating our next brand of terrorists, and we're playing into the hands of the Chinese and the Russians, who are rubbing their hands in glee to step into the power vacuum created by Donald Trump's withdrawal from the world stage. When Brazil becomes the leader of our democratic ideals, because they finally got around to prosecuting Bolsonaro, their former president, for corruption related to him trying to stage a coup, when Brazil is the one holding the lamp of democracy as opposed to the United States in this hemisphere, you know something's going wrong. You know something's going wrong. So we're going to continue to closely follow all of the right-wing fascist nutbags that are in the Trump administration. This is like a bag of nuts. This is like the island of misfit toys. But it matters because we can't go this alone as an American people. We are the leader of a global world, you know? And this America first and for Americans only stuff, this may have been attractive during the 1930s and 1940s, but even then it wasn't. That's why we didn't get President Lindbergh as president. Charles Lindbergh ran on a similar platform or was going to run. He didn't become president for a reason. We can't go it alone. I read something recently which brought it all home to me in terms of the global economy. No one country, even the United States, can build an iPhone based on its parts. It can't. It has to rely on a supply chain around the world. If we can't build an iPhone by ourselves, how are we possibly going to go it alone from a diplomatic standpoint, from a foreign policy standpoint, from a national security standpoint, from an intelligence gathering standpoint? What do you think's kept the world safe and America safe all these years? The destruction of all the federal agencies and agency heads, the hollowing out of federal employees, the firing of top credentialed people, and removing them from government because Donald Trump doesn't like the color of their skin or the stripe or the color of their political stripe? We all have voters' remorse. I don't, but many people have voters' remorse in the independent, Republican zone. And we got to keep talking about it because we're coming close to the midterm elections. It's not that far away. We got to mobilize now because if everybody believes, I believe on this side of the aisle, that there already would be articles of impeachment drawn up for Donald Trump for any number of the things we talk about on these hot takes, currying favor and siding up and getting into bed with the Russians as an American president, impeachment article. Trying to his power grab to take over power to the expense of the federal courts and Congress, impeachment. His attempt to impound funds, federal funds, impeachment. Firing independent agencies, impeachment. Birthright citizenship, trying to deny people their right to be born and have a blue passport, impeachment. How do we get there? The midterms. That's where we got to continue to look while the federal courts continue to rein him in. I'm Michael Popok. I'm fired up. I'm on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. And until my next reporting, I'm right here. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.